Funny how a place can hold a lifetime inside its walls. When I was a boy, summer meant one thing. My grandfather's cabin at Crystal Lake. That place didn't just smell like pine and old varnish. It smelled like history. Every creaking floorboard, every ripple in the dock carried memories older than I was. We caught our first fish off that dock. We played cards until the lantern flickered out, laughing until the night went still. We'd watch summer storms roll across the water while sipping lemonade so sour it made your teeth ache. That cabin wasn't just wood and nails. It was tradition. It was a memory. It was identity. And I would have done anything to protect it. That's why when Patricia Holloway's front door was pounded on at 3 o'clock in the morning, it wasn't satisfaction I felt. It was something quieter, resolution. The kind that only comes after a fight you didn't want but refused to lose. From my porch across the street, I watched the federal marshals surround her pristine white house. Their black SUVs sealed off every driveway, every alley, every possible escape. Patricia had ruled our HOA like a queen for nearly a decade, trimming freedoms like hedges that dared to grow too high. But that night, the queen was cornered. Her sharp protests sliced through the stillness of our cul-de-sac as the court order was read aloud. Accounts frozen, assets seized, and most importantly, the fraudulent deed to my grandfather's lake cabin officially voided. 6 months earlier, I had inherited that cabin when Grandpa Theodore passed away. It was bittersweet, the end of an era, but the continuation of everything he'd built. Crystal Lake sat about 40 minutes from Metfield Heights, our suburban neighborhood. And thanks to a weird old land use agreement from the 1970s, that cabin technically fell under our HOA's jurisdiction. And Patricia Holloway, well, she'd made herself queen of that kingdom. 8 years as HOA president, and she wielded her power like a scepter. She'll find one family for mailbox paint that was too faded, another for grass a 4 in too long, and once she even cited a neighbor because their wind chime was too melodic. So, when she showed up on my doorstep less than 24 hours after the cabin became mine, I wasn't surprised. She gave me this tight, practiced smile, the kind snakes might give before striking, and said she needed to inspect the property for compliance. I politely declined and pointed out the grandfather clause in the HOA bylaws, the one protecting all structures built before certain modern regulations. Her jaw clenched so tight I thought she might chip a mare. She left without another word, but I knew right then the war had begun. The first shots came in the form of letters. They started out petty. One claimed my dock extended to in past the HOA limit. Another said my cabin's trim violated the earth tone rule, even though that same blue paint had been there since the 1960s. Then came a $100 fine for an unauthorized bird feeder. A week later, $200 for a non-compliant weather vane, the same weather vane that had spun peacefully on that roof for 6 decades. I responded calmly, professionally, sent photos, documents, even excerpts from the bylaws themselves. But logic didn't matter to Patricia. Her goal wasn't enforcement. It was control. At the next HOA meeting, she made a spectacle of me, claimed my grandfather's cabin was dragging down property values, said the handmade welcome sign was a safety hazard. A few neighbors rolled their eyes, but no one spoke up. That's how her little regime survived. Not through authority, but through fear. Fear kept everyone quiet. Then things got worse. One weekend, I drove out to the lake, only to find the access code to the community boat ramp had been changed. When I confronted her, she claimed it was for security reasons and demanded a $500 processing fee for the new code. Not long after that, rumors started spreading. Patricia was telling people I was secretly running an illegal short-term rental business out of the cabin. I laughed it off at first, until I saw how quickly that gossip spread. In a neighborhood like ours, lies travel faster than truth. Then came the real shock. A certified letter arrived from the county records office. I tore it open, expecting more bureaucratic nonsense, but my heart stopped when I read the first line. According to the county, I had sold the cabin to Patricia Holloway for $1. My name was on the deed, my signature, but I had never signed anything. My hands shook as I read it again and again. Then I called my old friend James Morrison, a real estate attorney I trusted. He took one look at the document inside. "It's a bad forgery," he said, "but a forgery nonetheless." He brought in a forensic document examiner, Sandra Blackwell. She confirmed what we both feared. The signature was traced, the notary seal was fake, and the witnesses listed didn't even exist. That's when we started digging, and what we found was uglier than we imagined. The county clerk who processed the forged deed, a man named Robert Delroy, had just bought himself a $60,000 fishing boat. Not bad for a guy making $40,000 a year. And in that moment, I realized Patricia's power went far beyond HOA. She had help, and the fight for my grandfather's cabin had only just begun. The surveillance footage told the story better than we ever could. Patricia had been meeting with Robert Delroy multiple times in the weeks leading up to the forged deed being filed. We finally had proof, undeniable, concrete proof. While we quietly built our civil case and handed evidence over to federal investigators, Patricia went on the offensive. She changed the locks on my family's cabin, posted no trespassing signs with my name specifically listed. She even held HOA meetings on my deck. Neighbors sent me photos. Patricia, sipping Chardonnay in my grandfather's old rocking chair, barking out new rules like she owned the place. Every image burned in my chest like gasoline on a slow flame. I wanted to march down there and drag her off that porch myself. But James, ever the voice of reason, told me to wait. Patience. Let her hang herself with her own rope. So, we did things by the book. We filed for an emergency injunction, submitted every document, every timestamp, every bank record to the feds, and began our quiet march toward justice. The FBI doesn't take forgery lightly, especially when it involves public corruption and bribery. And our forensic accountant was about to uncover just how deep Patricia's rot went. Turns out she'd been embezzling from the HOA for years. She used association funds to pay for her daughter's wedding, her kitchen remodel, and ironically enough, the bribe that got Delroy to process the forged deed. Every ledger she'd touched was altered, every receipt. Once our evidence was airtight, I requested a judge to freeze her assets. Every account, every investment, even her beloved silver Mercedes. The order went through, and she was officially barred from setting foot on my property. For the first time in years, Patricia Holloway actually paused, and then her little empire crumbled overnight. The HOA board, once her loyal followers, suddenly found their voices. Vice President Tom Gwynn recalled irregularities. Treasurer Linda Washington discovered boxes of hidden receipts in Patricia's basement. Neighbors came forward with their own stories: fines for children's chalk art, double-charged penalties, even threats over Christmas lights. Then came the real bombshell. The FBI uncovered that Patricia had pulled these same schemes before. In Riverside Commons, she'd forged property records to steal a community garden. In Oakmont Estates, over $80,000 in HOA funds disappeared. Right around the time Patricia bought herself a luxury timeshare, her own family turned against her. Her daughter, Melissa, testified in court that her mother laughed about stealing my cabin, said I was too soft for lakefront living. Patricia's husband filed for divorce the day after her arrest. Her sister handed investigators recordings of Patricia bragging about her scams like war stories. Every scheme told with pride and zero remorse. When the civil trial began, it was thorough, methodical, and devastating. James, my attorney, dismantled her fake documents one by one. The judge ruled in our favor. Full ownership of the cabin restored to me, all legal costs covered, and $450,000 in punitive damages. Money that would come from the forced sale of Patricia's own lake house. Poetic justice at its finest. But her reckoning didn't stop there. At an emergency HOA meeting, the entire neighborhood showed up. Even the ones who usually hid behind closed curtains. One by one, people stood and told their stories. Marcus had been fined $3,000 because his kids drew chalk pictures on the driveway. Sarah Peterson had bank statements proving duplicate HOA charges. David Kim showed threatening emails from Patricia over non-regulation string lights. When the floor vote came, it was unanimous. Patricia was permanently removed from the HOA. The board immediately launched a forensic audit. The results? Nearly $500,000 was embezzled over 8 years, while our community's playgrounds rusted and potholes swallowed tires. Patricia Holloway had lived like royalty. Wine clubs, spa weekends, designer purses, all on our dime. The criminal trial that followed was swift and merciless. Prosecutor Amanda Reeves laid it all out. The forgeries, the embezzlement, the bribery, the bank transfers, the text messages, everything. Delroy's testimony sealed it. He confessed. Patricia had approached him at his daughter's soccer game, offered him a cash bribe to falsify the deed. He said it was the worst mistake of his life, one made out of desperation to pay off medical bills. Patricia sat there, trying to look calm, but her hands shook. Her mask cracked every time another witness took the stand. The jury wasn't fooled. They found her guilty on every single count: property, fraud, forgery, bribery, embezzlement, and racketeering. The sentence: 12 years in federal prison, $1 million in restitution, and a lifetime ban from ever serving on another HOA board. When the bailiff approached with handcuffs, Patricia lost it. She screamed so loud the courtroom echoed. She accused the judge of bias, blamed me for everything, and shouted that her roses would die without her. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I just walked out, got in my truck, and drove 40 minutes north, back to Crystal Lake. When I unlocked that old cabin door, it felt like stepping into time itself. The lake shimmered in the moonlight. The dock creaked just like it had when I was a kid. The wind whispered through the same weather vane, Patricia once finded me, for some places, no matter how hard others try, can't be taken from you. And if you've ever had to fight for what's rightfully yours, you know the feeling when justice finally lands exactly where it should. So, if you think Patricia Holloway got what she deserved, hit that like button, subscribe for more true stories, and share this one, because sometimes the good guys do win, and the bullies get exactly what's coming to them.